does feel increasingly like decorum is being thrown completely out of the window, and you have to wonder, is it sort of the Trump effect? And does it end up actually serving to reinforce the Trump narrative, by the way, that nothing gets done in Washington, and at the same time, he gets stronger? Let me bring in the panel on this one. Jamal Simmons, Democratic strategist, co-founder of Crate.com. Amy Walter, national editor for the Cook Political Report. And Matthew Continetti, editor of the Washington Free Beacon and a contributing editor over the Weekly Standard. Hello to you all.
Hello.
So, Matthew, I'm going to start with you on this. And this, do you feel as if the Republicans are drawing these tougher lines, and that it's a response to sort of Trump's out there, feeling as if they have to get tougher?
My first reaction to your intro there was, Chuck, it's not like Republicans have been particularly cooperative with Obama over the last 7 years.
No,
so
right. But there was sort of a line.
For this.
Yeah, we took it to another step.
Yeah, I'll blame Donald Trump for a degradation in relations when Paul Ryan starts personally insulting the president, starts calling him a loser and things like the Trump affect is about these policy disagreements or gridlock than it is just I'm the winner, everyone else is a loser, and I'm going to make fun of you personally until you accept that you are a loser.
Yeah. What do you think of it?
I think that's a very good point. But I agree with the way you ended that sentence when you said I think it's only helping to build him up, which is the more that Congress looks dysfunctional, and the more that things look like they're not working, the more people say, well, why not take a risk with Donald Trump? Why not go in?
We've gone with these guys.
Exactly. We tried it with these guys. And the difference, what Donald Trump can do is what very few other candidates can do, elected officials can do, is they do it and it looks staged, it looks phony, it looks political. He does it and it looks authentic and genuine and like he's actually going to be able to follow through on these
threats. And some would argue it's just as phony, that he's doing an act too, but for some reason his act seems authentic.
Yes.
I had somebody say to me, actually, that he's authentically phony. Meaning, like, he's in on the joke. He lets you know he's in on the joke. And that's why it works.
Well, I think that's probably true. I also think that there's a reality that the parties are now becoming base turnout operations that fight over a very small sliver in the middle of people who are left. And so the Republicans know that they can't anger their base. They've got to be as loyal to them as possible. They're looking for these symbolic ways of doing that. And I think that's what you saw to Mitch McConnell last week was, I'm going to prove that we're with the base. So with Trump or without Trump, we're going to be on their side so that we can turn them out in November.
Is there a point that this damages Republican senators, or do you worry about that?
No, I mean, not on Guantanamo. Well, for one thing, the public is with them on Guantanamo, so that's not going to damage.
My feeling is they'll do the hearing to have it like probably good
on
politics.
The Supreme Court. I agree with you there. I've always thought that they should actually have waited until the nominee comes out and then have the hearings and then vote against the nominee.
Against the hearing, yeah.
Right. So, but that might hurt them. But at the end of the day, it's going to be the two presidential. So I think the short term.
Yeah, and that they drive.
Yeah. I think the president has one chance to get a Supreme Court nominee through. It's Loretta Lynch or somebody else like her. Because either they're going to embarrass the Republicans to the point where they have to go ahead and go through the process with her, or they're going to be a base turnout operation.
Yeah, speaking of this, Brian Sandoval, the governor of Nevada, decided he didn't enjoy being in the political football for 24 hours. And for Brian Sandoval's career, that's not a surprise. He is a bit risk-averse.
He's very risk-averse. And that's why nobody thought that he was going to run. Well, people who were in Nevada, our good friend John Ralston was very skeptical he was going to run for the Senate, which he did not. Listen, I agree with Jamal's point, too, about Sandoval, which was there are two problems with Brian Sandoval, just on paper. One is he's too liberal for most Republicans, whether it's on abortion, right? So
he's probably to the left of Anthony Kennedy.
Absolutely. So he was never going to be able to get their votes in the first place, just on ideology. And he wasn't going to motivate the Democratic base because these are Republican
I heard the White House phone lines lit up. Warned positive.
The
Democratic
there would have been a massive disruption in the Democratic Party had that happened.
All right, let's talk about the Trump effect in another way, Matthew. You've written about this a little bit, which is, his turnout is up in all Republican primaries. He's bringing in new voters. Why is this not a plus for the Republican Party?
Well, because I think so many Republicans are frightened by the prospect of him being president. But I'm out there saying that Democrats should be frightened of him, too. As I listen to Democrats, and they sound exactly like Republicans, when Donald Trump announced.
Oh, it'll never
happen. He's going to be so easy to defeat. He's such a joke. No one takes him seriously. Well, that's whistling past your grave as far as I'm concerned. There are Donald Trump is just playing at a different level than most political actors. And Hillary Clinton has shown, I think, to be a weak candidate in some respects.
But I think Democrats are not going to Republicans did, which is let him build up this head of steam and wait.
Right.
The minute it looks like he's getting the nomination, there will be millions and millions of dollars going after him. Everybody assumes, well, he's tough, he can take the punches because nothing defeats him. We don't know if he has a glass jar or not because nobody's punched him.
And I've seen people get under his skin. I mean, he looks sometimes like,
absolutely.
So you got to stand there, take the heat,
They're not
and then hit him again.
I was having this conversation with somebody. It's like, there's one politician that has gone up against Trump and won a showdown. It was President Obama. Mm-hmm. And how he went at him. He went at him with ridicule.
Yeah.
You got to get him the way he gets him.
Yeah, which is sort of the way he goes.
He goes,
right.
Yep.
Why do you think, Matthew, that the Cruzes and the Rubios and the Jebs haven't gone to the ridicule route?
I think they're afraid of the blowback. And I think they each have strategies that depend on everybody else getting out so they can get it into a one-on-one situation with Trump. That hasn't been the effect. I'll just say this about Donald Trump. He is not typically the Republican moves to the right in the primary, and that limits his support in the general. Well, Trump hasn't moved to the right. He's only moved to the right on one issue, and that was abortion, and he did it several years ago. So he's going to be in this weird position. Well, he'll be attacking Hillary Clinton, who I assume will be the nominee, from the right and the left.
Right.
And yes, $750 million in negative advertising is going to have an effect. He already has high negatives.
Right.
Yeah.
So does Hillary Clinton.
They're the two most unpopular presidential candidates we tested.
So what will her negative ratings look like after 6 months of Donald Trump every day finding new ways to insult her?
And what about this Bernie Sanders? But what about this Bernie Sanders effect? Look, Clinton supporters, after a bitter race with Obama, did come around and support Obama. And I know the assumption in Clinton world is Sanders supporters will come around. But boy, if you've spent any time with Sanders supporters, they're defiantly anti-Clinton.
You know, it's different.
They're very anti-Hillary. They may go to Trump.
Barack Obama was a movement candidate, and he had to get the pragmatists in the party to join him. Hillary Clinton is the pragmatic candidate, and she's got to get the movement people.
Much harder.
And it's a much harder thing to do, which is why, her having a message that appeals to them, and maybe her having a VP nominee that appeals to them as well, could also be helpful.
So you think this needs to go
from
younger?
Massachusetts, perhaps?
You think it needs to go younger or more progressive?
Absolutely.
She's got to go more progressive.
Yeah, well, progressive, and that's where Sherrod Brown could also be somebody that fits into that category.
Which,
where
by the way,
going.
None of us would have thought somebody like that would be what Clinton would be.
Democrats have been saying that for a while.
Especially with Trump, though.
Sherrod Brown would be a very good matchup against Trump.
And about the only way you would say...
Because Trump will go for the unions. He's going to make the trade argument against Hillary. He's going to make the foreign policy argument against Hillary in a way that no Republican can, because they're actually all internationalists.
Right.
He's not. So he's going to attack her from the left on foreign and trade policy.
And if he picks John Kasich, you might need a Sherrod Brown there, too.
Well, I just don't buy that some of these conventional Republicans, for all the things they've said, will they be willing to be on this ticket?
Fair point.
Very, very fair point.
That one we'll see. All right, I'm going to pause the